Hottie, you know, I have been specking out my dream bike, this custom titanium hardtail hand-built by Firefly Bicycles, for more than a year now. Well, Firefly let me know a little while ago that they've started building my bike. I sent them all the components, and they called me back after they got everything and told me I had made an enormous mistake.
That is not something you want to hear when you're hoping to receive and ride that bike for a couple months before the big race.
Yeah, you know I don't like to do anything different or new on race day. And I was going to Breckenridge for a couple of weeks. But, you know, it's at least in character. You're going to love this. As folks might expect, I ordered components from our show sponsors wherever I possibly could for this bike, especially Shimano. From the Pro Griffin saddle to the XTR cassette to the XTR chain, which I had pre-waxed by Silka, to cranks, to derailleur, to shifters, to pedals, to chain rings, everything. All of that is Shimano on my new bike, but can you tell from my quick list there what was missing?
Yeah, pretty easy. You need to slow down and stop this bike, don't you?
At least once in a while, yes. I completely neglected to order brakes for my bike. And you know what? I could not be happier about my ridiculous blind spot.
Well, that makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. But here's the thing. If I were ordering, I would have ordered XTR 9100, you know, the cross-country levers and brakes. They are light, they're reliable, they're just great. I have them on no less than 3 bikes between the Hammer and my bike, my geared bike and my single speed. But Firefly said, hey, just as a thought, why don't we put on the XTR trail brakes instead, the 9120s? And I said, sure, why not? And they put those on, and I tell you what, Hottie, meet my new favorite brakes. This bike has never really been about weight. It is about comfort and ease of riding and control. And these are just better than any braking I have ever experienced. I've now had this new bike in Breckenridge riding for 2 weeks, and I have never enjoyed descending like I do right now. In fact, I will say, as someone who has always kind of dreaded the downhill section of the Leadville 100, for the first time ever, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, 12,000 feet of climbing does in fact also mean 12,000 feet of descending in this out and back race, so brakes matter. Whether you're looking for the best 2-piston or 4-piston brakes, Shimano's got you covered. Learn more at bike.shimano.com. And thanks to Shimano for being the title sponsor of this show.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Shimano. Season 7, episode 22 now of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I'm Michael Houghton, Hottie to most.
I'm Fatty, and with race day rapidly approaching, I am officially freaked out. So I guess our podcast is doing its job.
It'll do more, too. In this episode in particular, Fatty and I are going to talk you through our plans for the 2024 LT100, from gear to clothing to nutrition to crewing.
And here comes Eldon Nelson with 14 minutes to spare on that clock. The bragging rights and the heavy hardware, that's all you. Welcome back to your Leadville family and your finish line.
It's Fatty's finishing tips, and the tip we want to share before we launch into this episode full of our plans is to remember this. Everyone is different. So you may hear something in this episode that makes you think, I absolutely disagree with that approach. And that is great.
Absolutely right. One of the single most common mistakes racers make is getting to Leadville, having conversations with other riders who have convincing, well-reasoned arguments, and then changing an important piece of their strategy with no idea whether it will work for them.
I have done that. I've done that too often. There's a lot of smart racers out there, and I love talking with them. And I'm already feeling kind of anxious about my own plans when I get to Leadville. So I will hear someone's well-reasoned, well-intentioned advice, and I will think, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I think of that? And I will start scrambling the jets. Don't be like me. Don't do that. By the time you get to Leadville, your plan is your plan. This race is the single worst place you can experiment with new strategies and equipment and nutrition.
All right, with that disclaimer / tip out of the way, let's talk about our plans for the racing and crewing the 2024 LT100. Now, I know you're pretty excited about that new bike, so let's begin with equipment, your bike.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Hottie. I was just waiting for you to open that door. So I got this new Firefly hardtail titanium. I call it the amazing Technicolor Dream Bike. Anyone who sees the custom anodization on it will understand what I'm talking about. It was built starting with the geometry of my beloved Epic hardtail as a starting point, but made a little more upright because of my spinal fusion last year. Also, a little bit more room for more suspension. I now have 120 millimeters of front suspension, which I am really enjoying. And there's a lot of high tech in there that is kind of hidden with an old school look. That is, there is a lot of tie that is welded together, but also some tie 3D printing from our good friends at Silca over at our sister podcast.
Yeah, 120 really is the new 100, isn't it? I mean, it seems like most XC bikes are now spec'd that way just because the forks have been made so much lighter. They can now offer a little more travel, to have this basically the same weight you and I were riding back when 100s were the thing, right? So 120 is now XC in my mind.
Yeah, and they were at Firefly, they actually spec'd it out originally as 140. And I said, that's not really how I ride. Let's make it 120. And they did. I mean, they were happy to accommodate my riding style and appreciated my approach. I'm more of a cross-country rider than any kind of descender. But for me, 120 is plush. I am not used to riding with that much. I remember back in the bad old days when a SID fork was 80 millimeters. So this is, it's like 50% more than that. It's incredible. I moving on to components on this bike. Shimano is obviously everywhere. XTR drivetrain, the XTR trail brakes that I was telling you a little bit about, 4 pistons, love it. XTR pedals, honestly, I don't even know what other pedals are out there anymore. I just love those for everything. The Pro Griffin saddle, which seems like it was designed with my butt in mind, although it probably was designed for someone else's. And I'm going to have to also acknowledge, Hottie, you were right. I know you love hearing this. You were right all along on the chain waxing thing. It has been so good. So I started with this pre-waxed Silca chain, or Silca pre-waxed my XTR chain before I put it on this brand new bike. Just got back from 2 weeks of mountain biking, basically full time. And during that time, all I ever did was top it off with a little bit of of a wax lube. And my drivetrain is as clean and as quiet as the day I got into town.
Yeah, chain waxing has really started to, gain a footing here. It's still not for everyone, and I totally get that. I think the point that Fatty's making and other chain waxers are really the bigger picture here is, first of all, start with an absolutely clean chain and then apply whatever high quality lube you like on there, whether that be some sort of drip lube or if you like the hot wax treatment. But go for good lubes. And the good news about wax too, as you just explained, Fatty, in so many words, is it's going to last. It's going to last the Leadville Trail 100. Right? It's gonna make it. It's already proven itself in the likes of Unbound and other long, dirty races. So if you're kind of freaked out about that, not so much. Now, that said, it's still a good idea to have a lube in your pit. And the difference, pit lube from lube you have time to apply, is in your pit lube, you're actually going to use an oil-based lube over the top because those wax-based lubes just don't have the time to penetrate and cure, so to speak. So you actually want to go with a more faster type oil-based lube. And that may seem counterintuitive, because, geez, aren't I waxing to keep dirt away? And yeah, you are. But if you do by chance somehow wear through your wax through the course of a long, dirty day, you do want to go immediately then to a more old school oil-based lube. it's going to have a better chance of getting in there, doing its job of lubing. And then once you're done with the race, you just yank the chain off and do a full, reset of that chain and go back to whatever high quality lube you're doing. So congrats. Welcome. You're now a marginal chainer and happy you're in the Wax family.
Ah, Hottie, you know your lubes. I got to say, you know the way to make a chain happy. Let's move on to the wheels that I've set on this. I mean, the wheels are no surprise at all. For someone who races Leadville or for people who ride cross country in general, there is no better wheel than the M525 from Envy. This makes my third set of this wheel. Two of them are mine. One of them is Lisa's. There's a reason. It is the best, most reliable, most awesome climbing wheel that money can buy. I honestly, it would not matter if Envy were my sponsor or not. I've ridden with Envy long before we did this podcast. Just such a super fan. Also an M6 bar. I love this bar, especially with the 20 millimeter rise. As you know, I ride a little more upright than I used to just because, my neck doesn't bend as much as it used to. I got to be a little more upright than I used to. And then I went with the 30.9 seat post with 20 millimeter setback. Which means, yes, I am riding high post. No, I am not using a dropper post again this year. I just haven't got used to it. And I know that is sort of the standard now. But man, I'm an old dog. I don't learn new tricks super easy. This is just the way that I ride.
Yeah, you know what to do with the regular post. It's fine. You know how to get out of your saddle, get out of the way of the saddle. It's like you're going down power line in the morning. So you just have to be doing that again. The folks with the droppers can just put it down and have a little easier time, but it's fine. Don't change now. Obviously, we just said that. There was a whole disclaimer at the top of the show. Don't change now. Go with what you got. It's a beautiful build, so stick with it.
Yeah, and I will say that I did have this bike built with internal routing for a dropper post, so I do have intention. When you see me in 2025, I expect I will still be on this bike. I expect I will also have a dropper post at that point. Once again, we should probably, since we are not doing traditional ads in this episode, that's env.com. Let's talk what's on those wheels. For the first time in, honestly, I don't even know how long. You know that I've been using the Ardent Race wheels forever and ever. And before you and I started recording, I was talking about how it is a little bit weird. Those aren't available anymore. I had to change up to something. I am experimenting with the 2.4 Maxxis Aspens. It is so hard for me to not say Ardent anymore. But I've really been enjoying riding with those, and I've been riding with them at a slightly lower pressure than I used to. I've got the slightly higher volume, so riding at slightly lower pressure. I weigh about 170 right now, which is heavy for me. But I'm still riding with 19 PSI up front, 20 in the back. And I'm saying this not as like advice to anyone for what their tire pressure should be, but think about that. 170-pound person, I'm riding at 19 and 20. So a little piece of advice, and I am happy to give this piece of advice. No one should be riding higher than 30 PSI in the Leadville 100. No. And honestly, I can't imagine a scenario for higher than 25. But every year I will meet someone who is riding at 40 PSI thinking that they are saving themselves from a pinch flat. You're not. What you're doing is you're making yourself more likely to slide out because your tires don't have any kind of hysteresis, any grip.
Yeah, just go down, folks. If you're riding 25 or anything over 23, just do yourself a favor. Go do a roll down test. Leave your normal pressure in, do a roll down test, right? Go back to the top of the hill, drop 4 or 5 PSI out of those tires, do another one. You'll just find yourself getting through down that hill a little quicker. The bike just wants to roll faster if it's better connected to the ground and it's not bouncing all over the place. If you're an Ardent fan, by the way, like Fatty was for many years, and you want to stick closer to that tire, the Aspen's a bigger leap. The Recon Race is the tire that Maxxis developed to replace the Ardent. The Recon Race is kind of a cross between the Icon and the Ardent. So a little quicker than the Icon, a little better than the Ardent, and that's the Recon race. But for full race, I mean, you're looking at Aspen or Aspen ST or the Aspen Pro Spec. I mean, you can go Fatty's way too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I rode with him for 2 weeks in Breckenridge. Had a great time. Never had a single flat. Never felt like I was sliding or like I was about to lose way in those tires. So I'm happy with them. Planning to use them in Leadville, but I will probably. I've done a lot of riding. Going to do another lot of riding for the next 3 weeks or so. I'm going to take a good hard look when I get to the 1st of August and make a decision. Do I need a new set of tires on these wheels? If I do, I am going to make sure that I put them on before I get to Leadville. I have had bad luck in the past when you are trying to put a brand new tire on a wheel a couple of days or a couple of hours before the race. Get that done before you get to Leadville. Make sure you've got all the sealant in and everything. Once again, you want to ride for at least a couple of rides, a few days before so that you're not riding with brand new tires when you get to the race.
I see pros do that all the time. I'm like, Alexi, our buddy Alexi Vermillion, he'll put tires on the night before a race and go, I'm going to change up and just not even flinch. And he does it himself and pulls it off every time. So yeah, they have more guts than you or me. That's for sure. I'm like you. I like them on. I like them on for more than a week so I can get some rides in them.
Yep, I agree. And make sure you've got fresh sealant in. If you did not put in new tires, make sure you've at least got new sealant in. Aside from disc brakes, I think tire sealant in tires is the biggest game changer in racing, at least in my recollection. It has been a long time since I've had a really serious flat. I'm, of course, bringing everything that I need for a serious puncture, but it's been a while since I have had, I have lots of like thorn punctures, but 2 rotations of the tire and they seal up, and I can feel the sealant flick onto my face as it squirts out at first, and then it's gone. So make sure your sealant is fresh. I think it's a pretty uncommon flat or puncture that is going to give you a flat in Leadville if you take care of that.
Okay, time to pronounce your goals, maybe. What's your plan? What are you going to look for on that clock for the 2024 LT100?
My objective is pretty modest this year. I want to finish before the 12-hour cutoff, and I'm not just saying that hyperbolically. That really is the thing that I most care about. I am also going to, as I did last year, be racing with the amazing Hammer. She is doing her 19th Leadville 100 this year. In an episode earlier in the season, Melissa actually pointed out something that I hadn't given a lot of consideration. Lisa has a 100% finish record out of her 18 races. She has never DNF'd this race. She's like, honestly, I don't know many people who can say that. I certainly can't say that. Anyway, I'm looking forward to racing with her. I'm going to race with her again next year when she gets her 20th Leadville 100 finish. I'm excited about that. Apart from that, I'm looking forward to talking with other racers while we race. During the Leadville 100, we're going to probably be in the 10.5-hour zone, which is kind of the fat part of the snake. If you think of the Leadville 100 and all of its racers as a snake, that most of us are finishing between 10 and 11 hours. I'm going to be right in the middle of that. If you see someone wearing the pink and purple 2024 Leadville.fm jersey, say hi to me. I would love to talk to as many racers as possible. I'm not going to guarantee I will have a big exchange with you, but would love to talk to Leadville 100 racers as we do this. I'm also looking forward to appreciating my amazing family that keeps coming out year after year to this race and saying thank you, seeing my crew, you, Hottie, seeing Mrs. Hottie, and just kind of soaking it in. Not every year has to be a fast year at the Leadville 100. Of course, you got to be kind of fast. It's not like you're going to finish Leadville 100 feeling fresh, but I am looking more forward to enjoying the people and the experience and the trail than I am to being fast.
Okay, so hopefully one of my jobs will be, and I'm assuming I'm going to be there again this year, is finding you at the starting line. So help me with this search.
Okay, so it shouldn't be too hard to find me. I will be in the Orange Corral. That's a corral that I earned last year. Lisa and I will be side by side. So you look for two of those Leadville.fm jerseys side by side. Will be easy to spot. That pink and purple kit is pretty easy to see. It's the DNA race cut jersey. I'll be wearing my favorite DNA arm warmers. I'll be wearing, let's see, actually my socks won't be easy to pick out. Black S-Fire socks, shout out to Shimano yet again. I will be wearing a laser helmet. I gotta say, Hadi, I'm having a hard time choosing helmets. I kind of think I might wear the Jackal. I just love that helmet. I know that you're the same way. It's kind of a big helmet, has that big visor, but my goodness, it is comfortable. I there's just no helmet that I would rather wear. I'm thinking, you know what? I don't care this year if I'm a gram heavier here, heavier there. I want to be comfortable.
Yeah, the only thing I'll remind you about you is that once you roll away from the start line, some of this kind of laid back approach tends to go away. Like last year, you were surrounded by uncertainty. You didn't know what the hell was going to happen because you'd had surgery, or you're worried about your spine and your health, and it was like, I don't know how I'm going to finish. Yet by the time you reached me out at Twin Lakes Alternate, you were in full race mode. You're like, I'm doing this. I'm getting back. So just remember that about yourself, okay? You may want to put the racier helmet on because when the gun goes off, that's who you are.
You do know me well. There is the normal fatty who is very much a type B person, pretty chill in person, and then there is fatty in the race. And I do get the eye of the tiger, and it just sort of sneaks up on me. So that is a fair point, and I will give that due consideration. I appreciate that. I'll be wearing a Specialized Grail long-fingered gloves. I don't know if I've ever even talked about my glove philosophy in Leadville 100. These are a very lightweight glove. No padding, except for just a tiny little bit of padding around the palm area. So they don't get in my way. They don't crease. They're pretty comfortable. And then, of course, I will have on thrift store pants, usually some kind of track pant that I slit up to the knee so that they're easy to slip down over my shoe when we're getting close to go time, and a thrift store jacket. These I can lose without any concern after the race is done. Although it seems like I keep getting them back. So I'll have the same ones I've had for the last few years, thanks to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of over the padded gloves myself too. I just don't like all the bulk. It just takes up space. I'll just go with the fatter grips if I want, right? More padding. So I don't need it in the gloves as well. All right, so you have kind of a time in mind, and then how are you gonna break down the time? You got some splits in mind?
I do. My times, the splits that I am targeting, are basically the times that we got last year, just sort of rounded to 5 minutes, so it's easier to remember. So last year, I think we got a 10:15, something like that. I'm saying finish time this year of 10 hours, 20 minutes. What that breaks down to is getting to Pipeline in 2 hours and 20 minutes, then Twin Lakes Dam, 3 hours and 15 minutes, so just under an hour from Pipeline to Twin Lakes. Columbine, do that in 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's a good conservative climb, not burning matches, sort of harking back to our previous episode with Nate. Back to Twin Lakes Dam, it's 6:10, so just under about 50 minutes or so. Pipeline, again, 7 hours and 10 minutes, exactly an hour. To Carter, 2 hours after that. grab something to drink, and over to the finish 1 hour from then.
So the timing, Matt, will not be at pipeline. It's going to be at outward bound. Why are you not using your splits based on outward bound?
Because I don't.
Or outward. Wait, did I say that right? Yeah, I said outward bound.
Outward
Okay,
bound.
I get it. Yeah, that's it.
Outward bound,
outbound,
outbound,
right.
inbound.
So outward bound, that's where the mat is. But you're not putting your splits down for that. Why not?
No, next year I will. This year I don't have any kind of Strava data or any real good understanding of what outward bound is going to do to me. And so for right now, I'm just using Pipeline, which I do know where it is, and I have lots of data that shows me, what time I can expect. If I get to Pipeline at this time, I know I can get to Twin Lakes Dam at that time, basically an hour later. So until I understand what happens between when I enter the outward bound section and when I get to Pipeline, I'm not going to put any stock or make any guesses on that yet.
All right, so we know this is an eating and drinking contest. So let's go over that. How is this contest gonna play out for you?
We know that for a person of about my size and bigger, that 100 grams per hour of carbohydrate is sort of the target that is worth trying to get to. If you have been using that 90 to 100 grams, I've been able to consume reliably up to 110 grams per hour. You think about that, I am going to be, if I'm out on the course for 10 hours, if I have a good day and I'm out there for 10 hours, that is 1,000 grams, which is 34 of the Precision Fuel PF30 gels. This really is an eating contest disguised as a race. Now, saying all this, I will be buying essentially about that many gels. I mean, I can consume 30 plus gels in a 10-hour race. And we'll count the wrappers at the end of the day. I actually had an idea during my Breckenridge trip, Hadi. When I was Lisa and I did the Pikes Peak road climb. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Pikes Peak is a very famous 14,000 foot summit that you can do on a road bike. And just for fun, I pressed the lap button every time that a car passed me because I was curious how many cars passed me on this very popular tourist road. And I was like, at the end of it, my lap count was at something like 240. I was like, okay, so that's exactly how many cars passed me. In Leadville this year, I'm thinking every time I take a gel, I'm going to press the lap button. We should have, because I'm always curious. I talk so much about, when the chime goes off and it's time for you to eat, you eat no matter what. I want to see, exactly whether, when I put my, see how well I put money where my mouth is on this. If I am really hitting every 20 minutes with a gel, it'll be curious. I promise to be honest about it. I won't promise that my memory will always be 100% faithful. I tend to get race stupid in this thing, but it'll be worth trying. Anyway, everything that I buy for this race, I'll be getting from the feed, of course, and I'll be using that $20 per quarter credit our listeners can get. And it is insane not to use this program. Go to thefeed.com/Leadville, get signed up for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we've got bottles too. Can't forget eating and drinking contest. So how about the drinking?
Yeah, I've fallen in love with the Scratch Super High Carb sport drink mix. I am carrying, or I will be carrying, a bottle of that everywhere during this race. I am loading it at 5 scoops per 24-ounce bottle. That is about 140 grams of carbs right there. I love the lemon lime flavor. Lisa likes the raspberry and likes it mixed a little bit lighter. She uses just 4 scoops. But and I get through one of those bottles just sort of hitting it whenever I think about it. So I'm not using that to reliably deliver all of my fuel, but rather as sort of a bonus fuel. And I seem to be able to tolerate, I don't know what my upper limit is, honestly. it's been a long time since I've had GI distress when riding. I am lucky that way. But I will easily be past my 100 grams per hour using that, just having one of those bottles, as well as a bottle of regular water or my USWE pack, just depending on the part of the race. Let me sort of break down how I'm going to do that from section to section. So I'll start at the beginning of the race with 2 bottles of this scratch mix. And so that is going to, I mean, between those 2, that's, I think, that's 140 grams of carbs. 9 gels in my pockets, that's 270 grams of gels, which means for that first 3.5 hours, I've got 410 grams of carbs that I should be going through in 3.5 hours. Honestly, that is probably more than I will get to during the race. So I will get to you at Twin Lakes Alternate probably with a gel left in my pocket. I am fine with that. What I don't want to do is, like, if I'm having a bad day and I get through all of my gels and still have 40 minutes till I get to you, then my bad day turns into a really, really bad day. Don't like that happening.
That's a lot of carbohydrates there out of those bottles alone. I mean, the only thing you might want to think about is, where are my electrolytes coming from, right? Where's my normal hydration coming from? If you don't drink those bottles, then but you do the gels, you're keeping up on the carbohydrates, but you might be getting behind on the hydration equation. Half of the equation, yeah.
That's a fair point. That is a very fair point. And I am still tweaking this plan. I may swap out one of the bottles of the scratch for a bottle with one of the GU hydration tabs. I really love the taste of that, and I kind of like the way it effervesces just a little bit. It goes down real pleasant, which is kind of nice. Or I might just go super old school and have a bottle that has some water in it. Imagine. So yeah, that's actually a really good thought, Hadi. And then, of course, at the starting line, I will have some kind of bar. I've always loved the Bonk Breaker bars. They're harder to find than they used to be. I really love the Pro Bar as well. It's sort of a it's sort of a pressed fruits and nuts and grains type of bar. Like those a lot. Usually I will just pick up one of those or a couple of different ones at Cycles of Life before the race. Or I'll pick something up or order something from the feed.
I knew the guys at Bonk Breaker, actually. They were here in LA, and I knew a lot of them. They were, for a while, they're down to one person though. So I think it affected their output a little bit. But the company, as far as I know, is still going, and I know is a popular product, especially with triathletes. Love them too. So, but yeah, it's too bad you can't find them, kind of at will. We used to see them everywhere, right? Those bars were everywhere, not so much anymore. So, all right.
And that's unfortunate because, you and I both really are big fans of their product. So, it's been a tough year for a lot of the cycling industry. So hopefully if they're in a valley, hopefully they can climb back out of it.
So you'll have an opportunity to pick something up at Outbound. Is that going to happen, or are we going to charge through?
Charge through. It's been a long time since I've stopped at Pipeline or now Outward Bound. I honestly, I am about 25 miles into this race, a couple hours into this race. It's really, and I will be stopping an hour from then. It's real uncommon that I have any need that is worth slowing down for. I'm likely to just keep on pressing through, especially since this next section is more or less and not flat. I don't know. I mean, we're always talking about flat sections. There's nothing flat in Leadville, but
especially that climb over to Twin Lakes Dam. I always found that to be kind of a grind. That washboardy road, it was a little tough.
It's a grind.
So I think you have to keep that in mind. Is once you get off of a power line descent and you're on the pavement through Outbound, Outward Bound, Outbound. Still getting used to that. I mean, it's easier, but there's still work to be done there. And then you're going to get to me now. If we go on past years, that'll be at Lost Canyon / Twin Lakes Alternate. What happens there?
So what I'll be wanting you to do is hand me my USWE pack, which will have basically 2 bottles of water at about the same concentration that we've been using before. So 5 scoops per 24 ounces, which will be a total of 10 scoops. Quite a bit of carbs there. I will have a bottle of water because sometimes you just want a drink of water. 6 gels, that'll get me the 2 hours of climbing, no problem. I will grab a gel at the summit and suck that down as I do the turnaround. And then just to give me something to actually chew on for a second, a handful of either scratch chews or goo chews. I don't know. Any brand doesn't really matter much.
And that scoops you said for the USWE, that'll be the high carb thing again with the scratches high carb? Okay.
Yep. Just big fan of that. Doesn't it seems like I don't pay any price for it, and I find that my energy levels are really good with it. So yeah, turns out that this is sort of like my new favorite product.
Cool. And then you come back off the big mountain, and I see you again.
Yeah. I will have you give me half a bottle of water, and then 1 bottle of the Scratch high carb mix, and then 3 gels. That is way more than I plan to use. I will probably not go through more than 2 of the gels and half of the bottle of water. But my plan is to always have more food than I could possibly use, because I have seen so many times people who have a somewhat bad day slow down a little bit, and then they run out of food, and their bad day turns into a horrible day. I would much rather ride into each aid station with a little bit extra than not enough.
And then you're done with me. You're on to, I think Blake has been out there before, and you've got it marked as outward bound, inbound. Now, we used pipeline before, and I think that's TBD, right? Yeah. Exactly where we'll be at. But anyhow, what is traditionally the last big stop you can make before the big climb of the power line. We'll say outward bound, inbound for now, and you're going to pick up another load of goodness there.
Yeah, that's where I really need the most, because from there is really where, that final quarter of the race just really kicks you in the gut. It is so hard. It is so long. It's where things are either going to be real hot, or it could be rainy, or it could be both. I will be using my USWE Race 2.0 pack, which you kind of turned me on to, and which I got for a really good price at the feed, thanks to my quarterly $20 credit. I plan to ditch the insulation sleeve on that, making it so it weighs honestly just about nothing, unless it is very hot outside, in which case I will go ahead and use the insulation sleeve with it. I'm planning to have 60 ounces of water, 12 scoops of the ultra high carb mix on that. That is a lot of carbs. I will have a bottle of water, and I will have 10 gels. Basically, this is a ton of product to get me to the finish line.
Mm-hmm. And you could, like, if people are wondering, gee, do I need a hydration pack inbound from either pipeline or outward bound? You could, you couldn't go without the pack. The kind of water Fatty's putting on his back there is about 5.5 pounds. That's what it weighs. And you're thinking, geez, I'd like to carry less weight over power line. Totally get that. You could instead trade that 5.5 pounds for just maybe a couple pounds in a water bottle, climb power line, get the Carter aid, but you got to refill there. Like you'll probably be out by then. You could refill at Carter. That means you're going to stop. Fatty's setup, he leaves a good opportunity not to stop. Like Carter's actually, it could be just an option for you, Fatty. You could just zoom right by there. You could go, oh, got plenty in the pack, got plenty in the bottle. I'll keep going, which you would like to do actually, because coming out of Carter is actually a little climb. So ideally, you keep your momentum going there. But if you're more of the weight watcher and you want to go with less weight over power line, totally get it. That's the way I always did it. I always just went 2 big bottles, boom, headed for home that way. So a couple of options there.
Yeah, and just depending on how fast and how urgent I am feeling, I will make that decision. And you reach back behind you and sort of feel the Camelback or the USWE pack, whatever you're using, and you sort of see, oh, okay, that's almost gone. This bottle's almost gone. What I might do, and because you make a great point. I love having you as my sounding board for this. Maybe I will carry a little bit more on the USWE pack and have my bottle empty, or have an empty bottle, so that I can get a quick refill at Carter if I am down to nothing. and have got something to carry it in, because they don't have hand-ups ready for you at any of the aid stations. They are willing to give you just about anything, anything they've got on their spread, but you got to have your own container in the Leadville 100, right? So that is something to keep in mind. And also keep in mind, when you get to Carter, you are not done climbing for the day, right? That is something that is, first timers will forget, is that from Carter, there is, I don't know, another 100, 150 feet of climbing before you get to descend. From Carter to Keevens, it still rolls. There's a few little pitches that will really kick you in the teeth. And then, of course, there is the boulevard. And that is steeper and harder than you would expect when you have 103 miles in your legs already. There is one more thing that I want to make sure I point out to you, Hadi, and for my other crew. I will be setting up each of my crews with a set of clothes for bad weather. That will include a rain jacket with a hood in both cases. This will include tights because rain happens. When I was in Breckenridge last week, during one of the afternoons, we got serious hail for about 20 minutes. And that would have been really unpleasant to be riding in. I have a pair of the sort of surgeon type gloves that I keep in my saddlebag. I also have heavy gloves that I will be giving to each of my crews. I keep a beanie, something to keep my bald head a little bit warm, a wool base tee, a heavier jersey, and some wool socks. It doesn't cost anything to leave that either with your crew or as a drop bag in the aid station. Bad weather can happen in high Colorado.
All right, so crew plans. Now, you've heard us talk on this show. I don't know, we've dedicated at least 2 full episodes to how to crew at Leadville. It is very important about what you do. A lot of folks, Fatty, I think, pay attention to us and how we do it. We're lucky. We have a lot of people to throw around. We just, we throw people at the problem, right? And we do get it done. Not everyone has that opportunity. So before we get into our plan, I wanted to, I went out and did a little researching, reconning, if you will, with some of our race friends out there and some of the folks on the participants page to see kind of what they had in mind. Because as you know, there's new stuff right out there. There's kind of been a wrench thrown into things with Outward Bound being a new spot where you can crew, with the shuttles happening now. I mean, that's a whole new thing to deal with what looks like more cars going out to Lost Canyon. So we wanted to find out, what you folks were thinking about as far as a crew plan goes. So we put up a poll on the participants page and also asked a couple of questions about how you plan to staff and crew this year's Leadville 100. Now, first of all, the poll asked if you were going to plan to use shuttles, or your crew plans to use shuttles, if you would not be using the shuttles, or if you'd be using neutral aid. That was just the 3 answer to that one particular poll. And here's how it turned out. 50% of the respondents said they will not be using the shuttles. 27% said they will be, which makes it sound like they're probably going to use Twin Lakes Dam as well. And then 23% said they will be relying on neutral aid throughout for their ride around the Leadville Trail 100. So that's how the poll shook out. Now, we also, by the way, Fed, do you have any surprises there? Were you taken aback by any of those numbers in particular?
I am a little bit surprised by the 50%, half of the people, at least, and this is on the Facebook group, and self-selecting poll, blah, blah, blah. But still, that it is kind of a coin toss as to whether people are going to use the shuttle system. I guess we will have to see what that means in terms of, will the buses be full? Are there going to be empty buses waiting around? If most people or half the people aren't using shuttles at all, maybe that'll make it so it's a really nice, easy
Sure.
experience for people who do.
Yeah. I was surprised actually a number of people using Neutral Aid. I think that's cool actually that people are going to give it a go.
Yeah.
And hey, I'm on my own out there. I'm just going to use Neutral Aid. Forget hassling my crew with shuttles or making them drive out to Lost Canyon and then back to Outward Bound. Just Neutral Aid it. So really good. Okay, so that was kind of helpful info.
And I think there's good reason to use neutral aid. I mean, for one thing, just the logistics challenges really go down if you are just going to use neutral aid. For another thing, I'm really impressed with the array of products and not content, the drinks, the gels that are going to be provided at the aid station seems super premium.
Yeah, good companies are staffing that stuff. You got Scratch there and Precision Fuel and Hydration both are going to be at Neutral Aid. Those are great companies and companies you can find on the feed if you want to try those products out beforehand. So yeah, excellent stuff to be found at Neutral Aid. Not just Gatorade and peanut butter jelly sandwiches, folks. You got real product out there. Now, as far as where people plan to have crews, it was broken down like this in the comment section. 11 people said they would use Twin Lakes alternate both ways, with 5 of those saying they would have their crew packing up at Twin Lakes alternate once they passed them the second time and trying to meet them at either Pipeline or Outward Bound inbound. And then one said they would have a crew at Twin Lakes alternate, outbound and inbound, and Pipeline outbound and inbound. That's the fatty hottie strategy, I would think, with using the zone defense, as we like to call it. 7 people said they would have crew on Twin Lakes Dam in both directions. Of those, 2 said they would have crew at Outward Bound in both directions as well. Again, sounds like a zone defense strategy, but maybe you try to make the hop. I don't know if you can do that with relying on shuttles, but you could try. Or maybe they had a crew pass too. They had a parking pass for Twin Lakes Dam. We didn't get that detailed on the questioning. We just want to know where people, kind of plan to put their crew. And then we had one say Outward Bound would be the only spot they would have crew, and one said the same for Pipeline. So that's how that broke down.
Boy, I would like to have a conversation with the folks who are thinking that they're going to be able to make the move from Twin Lakes to Pipeline or Outward Bound in time. I just don't. It is not something that I would bet my race on, and that is what they are doing. I don't think that is a wise move. I'm just going to come right out and say it. I think you should either plan on using neutral aid in one place and your crew in one place, or just make a plan, have a plan B if you are thinking that your crew is going to be able to get from one aid station to the next before you.
Yeah, and some of the respondents did put that caveat in there. They said, look, my crew can't make it back to Pipeline or Outward Bound. I plan to use neutral aid or just blow right through. So there was some of that going on as well. Hopefully you and I have put the message out there clearly that that's a big ask to get one crew to bounce between the two and have them meet you 4 times throughout the day. Very, very difficult task. Hence.
And Tamara kind of endorsed that as well when we had her on the show. She was saying that essentially the same thing. So coming from Lifetime as well, it just isn't a great move to try to somehow get from one to the other. It could be, I won't call it disastrous. I mean, that's maybe blowing things out of proportion, but it could leave your race in a tricky spot. And when you're racing stupid, it's hard to make adaptations is what I would say.
As far as us, it sounds like we're going to try and do what we normally do with some, again, we may make a game time decision based on what kind of access we do get. But in the past, we have staffed Twin Lakes alternate, Lost Canyon. A lot of folks have seen us out there, and then been at Pipeline. Now, this all starts for Fatty and I with a pre-race meeting. I mean, we have conversations obviously ongoing as we get closer to race week, and then we do have a formal sit down either the 2 nights before or the night before the race, where we get with all the racers involved in Team Fatty and discuss about what they'd like to have when they reach the various stops along the way. That being, for instance, in the years past, it's been Pipeline outbound, if they even plan to stop there. Fatty is already on the record saying now he plans to blow right through there. But some people like to stop and pick something up there, and we have somebody there crewing there. Then their next time to see somebody that they are familiar with would be at Lost Canyon, where Mrs. Hottie and I traditionally have been. And again, we get all their whatever's on their lunch menu, or what would be brunch at that time in the morning, and their pickups and what they want to go up the mountain with. And same for the return. They're going to see us first. They're again at Twin Lakes alternate inbound. And again, we have a whole list for that particular stop per racer on what they want. And that's what goes down in our pre-race plan, right? And then we have strategies even for executing the plan the morning of, right? Who's going to be where, and for instance, my traditional spot has been to see you at the start line, and hopefully, if we can, one of the things I try to do, and I encourage other people who can do this, is you can confirm to your racers that, hey, so and so got out there, they're in the spot where we thought we'd like to be, or they're not, and they had to move somewhere. You can kind of relay all that stuff, plus deal with any last second needs. It's going to be tougher this year with the shuttles and with the movement of people, and totally understandable if you want to forego having somebody at the start line. Fatty and I are lucky. We tend to have enough people to do that. Plus, I'm trying to do podcast duties and be there anyhow, so we tend to try and do that stuff.
Yeah, we have 3 racers and how many people in our crew? Almost as a sort of two crew people per racer. It is a lot, and of course, because Melissa, one of the people in our family, is in the Grand Prix, I believe she does have the option to go to, what is the strip of dirt road right before Twin Lakes Dam? I can never remember the name.
Well, that's the Mountain View day use parking lot. Yeah, traditionally was a first come, first serve situation, and it still will be. You'll just have to have a vehicle in there. You'll have to have a parking pass to park in there, because that spot only opens up the morning of the race, including this year. And you will, the change this year is you have to have a parking pass to use the Mountain View day use parking strip. And then if you want to bring any type of car to that area at all, you got to have a parking pass. If you want to be on the dam, right, and you think you can you want to bring your car there, you got to have a parking pass, which means you are either in gold, silver, or red. Only those folks are going to as we stand right now, only those folks will be receiving parking pass for Twin Lakes Dam, right? So, yeah. I mean, that's how that's going to shake out.
And that feels a little bit risky, right? The first come, first served. Seems like between gold, silver, and red, there will be enough cars trying to get in that overflow might become an issue. Honestly, it's part of the whole paranoia that we completely drumbeat on, that we say, don't try anything new on race day. That's trying something new on race day. And I feel like maybe just sticking with the plan that we have used successfully for years and years might be the thing that we are most likely to try. That said, I want to sort of see and observe and watch and decide for next year. Maybe shuttles will wind up being the really deluxe thing that are fantastic. We'll just have to see.
Absolutely. And again, remember, folks, if you do plan to use the dam, you do have the opportunity to set up the night before. I mean, that's one of the motivations that the race series is using to get people on shuttles, is to allow them the opportunity to do something they have not been able to do in recent years, and that is set up all their big stuff the night before, and then your shuttle users will have kind of an easier time of it. Even though there's some parking and some shuttling involved, that's a new thing itself. But you'll have your stuff set up, and that's a good thing. Lost Canyon, so far, they're gonna try and stick to their guns there and not allow any pre-setup there. So.
Yeah, making that day of that will be different and a little bit trickier for us than we are used to. So everyone is going to have to do something new this year, right? And only the people who are doing everything new, first-time racers, are going to be the ones who maybe have an advantage because they don't have expectations of how things ought to be. We'll adapt. The race will happen. It'll be awesome. We're all going to have a bucket list of experience.
All right, Fatty, here we go now.
Put your pack on last so you don't have to shoot it really hard.
Yeah.
How about your glasses, dude? Glasses all right?
Yeah.
You got mud right in front of you. Let's go.
Get out of here.
Go Riders. The Riders are coming.
Big
Go,
Dad
let's go.
Cross's killing it.
Okay, that's our plan, plus some of yours. Thanks to all the folks on the participants page who shared, what they plan to do. We appreciate that. Appreciate the knowledge. Some interesting stuff there. And I think people will get creative too. There'll be some new things there, and we're going to hopefully gather some of the stories our way in Leadville this year because it's a new year and it's kind of fun to see how people play this thing out. If you'd like to share more with us about this show or anything else, Leadville100podcast.com is its webpage. The show's on YouTube too. Maybe you didn't know that. Yes, we're on YouTube, and YouTube is a spot where you can leave comments. You can do that at YouTube or on the Slack channel. Slack channel is probably actually the best spot because it's a little better give and take there with not only Fatty and I, but with other listeners. So that's a good place. Go to leadville.fm/Slack for the Slack channel.
All right, so good luck in your Leadville training. At this point, I guess in your tapering, if some of you are beginning to taper. Thanks so much for listening, and we're going to see you next month at the starting line.